So now we'll actually talk about what cloud security is and why is it a shared responsibility model. So cloud security in very simple terms refers to the technologies, policies, controls and services that protect the cloud data, application and infrastructure from threats. So basically whatever you are using over the internet, it can be any service. So the security of that service or that infrastructure that you are using, that compute, that database is what cloud security is. And cloud security is a shared responsibility model, and we'll talk about that through this diagram. So if you see here, we'll mostly cover the IIS aspects. So if you notice, the physical security is owned by the cloud provider. It's marked in gray. Why is it owned by cloud provider? Because when you are using infrastructure as a service, the actual racks, the actual data servers, the actual compute servers, they are all hosted by by the cloud service providers in their data centers, which can be miles away, which can be in your city as well, obviously, but mostly it's like in data centers of the cloud service providers. So we don't have access to it. So that is why the physical security of all those components is taken care by the cloud provider, right? So we need not worry about it. Second thing is the host infrastructure. So now the host infrastructure as well. So whatever we are hosting on the infrastructure that we are using. So again, that now is a shared responsibility model, because some components are taken care by the cloud service providers while some by us. Similarly with the network. So even though the network or maybe the connections and everything is managed by the cloud service providers, it is us who need to define rules that over which network that particular component can be accessible. So for example, you can create a virtual machine and keep it open to the internet, right? So now the cloud service provider is streamlining access to the VM through internet because you configured it. But whereas if you follow good guardrails, good security hygiene, what you will do is you will configure the VM such that it is only accessible through a trusted IP source that is known to you, right? So in that case, it will be made sure that the VM will be accessible, the virtual machine will be accessible only through that certain IP and not through anywhere in the world, right? So that is why this is a shared component here. Then the application level controls, IAM related controls, client endpoint and data classification, these are all our responsibility. I mean the cloud user responsibility. And why is that? Because these are the things that we are deploying basically. So the application which you are deploying on the compute instance, that is our application, so we need to make sure of its security. Identity and access management, again, who needs to access that resource over the cloud portal? Again, this is our responsibility because we are managing our users or the users in our organization, right? Same with client endpoint and data classification and accountability, who can access which data and all those stuff. So again, now since cloud providers job is done, they have provided you with the compute, but then when you have deployed your application, it is generating certain data, the security of that data falls under your responsibility, right? So I hope things are clear here. And now if you see here, why there is more emphasis on cloud adoption in the first place. So think of a startup, right, who are trying to get into a big pool of new budding startups. There is a lot of competition around, and they want to set up their infrastructure. So if they go through the traditional route, that is setting up their own racks, their own network controls and everything, it will take a big team. It will take a decent team, and it will take a lot of time for those guys to actually set up physical compute instances, the network and everything. Third thing is it will cost them as well. So basically the cost of the actual infrastructure, the cost of the people who will set that up, and the people who will maintain that, right? And the time aspect as well. For startups, time is the most important aspect, right? So they want to be in the market first. So the go to market thing is very important for them. So what happens if they adopt cloud instead of doing all that stuff? So the actual setup of the hardwares and everything is taken care by the cloud provider. You just need some expert who can work with cloud and just help them configure whatever compute and database and storage requirements the startup has, and then you are done, right? So there is a lot of cost reduction, it increases speed, and that is why here we are talking about cloud adoption, and then why cloud security should not be a barrier